my daughter came home and said, I want to marry somebody, and she said, he's a Sikh, I'd be happy.
About society and what does society say, and you've got to love yourself from within. Where is that going to start? It's going to start from your clothes.
In this desire to want to be independent or different, you know, what we get is a lot of young people thinking, oh, thanks very much for that, and now I'm going to go off and do my own thing.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ.
Welcome to today's episode of Kaurs Corner. I'm Baljeet Kaur, and joining me today we have Rajpal Kaur, India Kaur, Sarabjit Kaur and Preet Kaur. So today, ladies, I actually went to the gurdwara yesterday, and after the ardas I was listening to the hukamnama, but I couldn't really hear the hukamnama because there was so much chattering going on by mostly women, which I find quite shocking, really. So, you know, and it just makes you think, has the gurdwara become a place of social gathering, and have we lost all concept of why we're going to the gurdwara?
My experience is that when I go to the gurdwara normally every Sunday is that it's actually quite good. There isn't the kind of chattering in the Darbar Sahib. But what I have found is when you go to a part, so it's somebody sukhni se have the part, I've sat through a part where women have just talked non-stop and absolutely until it's finished, and the bhattis had to tell them so many times, stop talking. Yeah. I do think it's important that, you know, gurdwaras are institutions of socialising, and in the langar hall, of course, women should have that right to get together and talk, but not while you're actually in the main divan listening to part.
Yeah.
I just think it's disrespectful.
I agree. I think the gurdwara is an extension of our communities, and I think it's fine to socialise in the langar hall, because you always invariably bump into somebody that you know, and it's quite nice. It's a bit of a community feel.
Yeah, but I think some women, maybe not even women, children as well, go in the Darbar Sahib and completely either don't understand, you know, why they're there. They're not there for a social gathering, you know, and they do just chatter, like you said, all the way through. I've been to several Kampat Sahibs, and you will find a lot of people talking all the way through the Bhog Slok. And you know, some of these are family members. And then you have the ardas, and after the ardas, and we ought to be quiet, and they will start talking immediately after the ardas. So, you know, are we not understanding what we're doing, Sarabjit, to good, you know, why we're at the gurdwara?
See, I think what we have to look at is what was the origins of a gurdwara. What was it there for, and how and why has it evolved? I know one of the comments that you said, it's okay to chatter in the langar hall, and I actually disagree, because you're making langar for your guru, and if you're going to be there gossiping and chattering, whatever your emotions are going to go into that langar,
yeah.
and then you're going to take that langar in front of your guru, and you're taking all of that.
Yeah.
So to me, I think that gurdwaras need to be a place of socialising, and there should be an element where people go and they know that this is the social aspects of it. So it should be really clear that when you're going for a part, or when you're going to somebody's borg, that it should be quiet. Langar hall is not a place for women to gather.
But we can, surely we can split langar hall into two entities, because you have the langar hall where you make the prashada, and you make the whole prashada's made, but then you have the bit where you're actually sitting and eating. So surely you can't deny,
and you can't
the sangat going there and
to people like that.
But I do agree, because some gurdwara do have a policy that you can't talk whilst you're making the langar. You can only do while you're making the prashad there.
Because you're making it for your guru.
When you're on the other side and you're actually, you know, consuming the langar, then
in the hall, that is your social place. I think the Darbar Sahib has to be, you're there to spend time in the presence of your guru. How can you spend time in the presence of your guru if you're sitting there chatting about somebody's daughter running away, somebody's no doing this, have you seen the latest clothes? I bought this from that shop. You're not there spending your time with your guru. But then But then I think that the Gurdwara needs to be a place where people can congregate, can use it as a social environment, because where else are we going to go?
A lot of people look forward to it.
Can't
And
socialise in a pub.
actually, Gurdwaras have
community
got
centres.
places where there's a room for men, and the men
Absolutely.
come and sit down, and they have a, they have a chat, and obviously it's on the side, but actually the women don't. So the
Is that
women,
like a committee room?
yeah, it's possibly, Hannah.
Because that's where our committee rooms
Yeah,
are.
and I think women's place is so important in Sikhi as well. And I think women, I was talking about them where they're having actually eating langar that they can socialise. I think it's really good. Like you said, there's nowhere else. Where else? These are our institutions. The Sangat should expect the Gurdwara to give them these opportunities to socialise and do more things. There is a lot of really good stuff for children. I think sometimes you've gone to the Gurdwara and in the main darbar, kids are running around, and screaming and up and down. And I think parents need to take some responsibility and sit their children down, Hannah.
But that again haven't things evolved with time? Because I mean, you and I used to go to the same Gurdwara, and we used to go and we had to sit there for 5 hours, and we weren't allowed to get up until we were told we could go and have langar. And we sat there and we weren't allowed to talk properly. But children now do, don't they? They just
But maybe they don't
sit
understand the
there
language.
on their phones. How many children have you seen sitting there on their phones
We
playing
get the children,
games?
the Bibia as well.
And they just can't wait to get out of there. You as parents should teach your children that when you go inside the darbar, say you don't run around out of respect of being at the at the Gurdwara.
But it's not happening though, is it? Because
But
children
you
are running
can
around.
obviously go to the langar hall and do that. So that's firstly. Secondly, the onus is maybe on the Gurdwara to try and do more for the youth and youngsters, whether
don't
it's via
understand the
screens,
language.
to make them understand what is being said and done. But then it all comes, that's a separate subject, because it all comes back to whether you're teaching your children, Punjabi, Sikhi.
Okay, but
comes back to
hang on,
that.
right? This thing about to clarify the kids situation. You go to lots of gurdwaras; they've got sevadars, sevadars inside the darbar sahib, and you can go to a gurdwara and people will sit there, including the children. Okay, so I don't think it's necessarily about running around. You go to Sohar Road Gurdwara, go inside the darbar sahib. There's kids that are sitting there because people are coming up, and you're afraid that you can't say anything. So it can be done, but I think that in terms of is the Gurdwara the right place for us to socialise and use it as a social place to meet? I think it should be. It is. We haven't got anywhere else. Where are our BBN going to go? For us, we can go to different places to socialise. We can go out with our friends for a meal. You can catch up at different people's houses. But for the older generation, they haven't got anywhere. Our mothers are not going to go out and necessarily go to restaurants and, sit down and have meals and socialise and all the rest of it, because they don't do
Bibia
that.
feel afraid because when I go to Smelik Gurdwara, the men are regularly sitting on the tables, they have a cup of tea, galbaat karte hain, which is great. But the Bibia they're a bit afraid to see what people will say, that they're sitting on the tables, having a cup of tea and having a chit chat. But actually, they shouldn't feel afraid. They should feel it's fine. And actually, those people that run those Gurdwaras should also think it's fine for the Bibia to
But
do
isn't
that.
that because women are perceived as the ones who gossip and men don't?
Well, they both gossip.
right.
It's just that it's the content of what they talk about.
But maybe I think the Gurdwara doesn't understand the role of being social itself.
No,
so
they don't,
maybe
because
what they need to do is they need to say, okay, fine, Langar Hall, no talking. Darbar Sahib, no talking.
That's right.
On these days, we've got these activities on. This is a social event. Do empowerment classes for women to go to. Do different classes. Do, like lots of Gurdwaras have kirtan classes. Do sewing classes, where you're teaching the youngsters how to stitch clothes. That's a social environment. Use that build. I shouldn't say building, but use the Gurdwara. It's lying there 7 days a week. Utilise it, and I don't think we utilise it enough.
But Preet also said that there's a room for men to go and socialise, and yes, there isn't one for women. But as the modern religion, as Guru Nanak Dev Ji's teachings were about equality, but yet we're not even portraying that ourselves through the Gurdwara, are we? We're not giving women that opportunity to actually come there and do the same things as men.
I mean, there's a group of women that go to Smelik Gurdwara, and our mums are part of that, and they go in the early hours of the morning and they do seva, they clean, they make stuff, and actually they come together, but they do a lot of simran together. And some people weren't very happy that they were doing that, but I don't think what men don't realise is how important it was for these women to have a sense of purpose, to be active in the Gurdwara, to meet together, but actually what they were doing was seva. fundamentally.
Yeah.
It was for the Guru because of their love for Sikhi, you know? And they're still doing that. These women, I must respect them because actually all of them, even when they were you know, previously, if people have said anything to them, they've just got on with it.
Got on with it
And
and
continue with it.
But I think that's what we ought to do. I think as a Sangha, we're not asking the questions. We need to have those social events. We have lots of camps for kids.
Yeah.
We have, you know, events for children.
Punjabi school as well,
pizzas
yeah.
and
Yeah.
chips and you know.
And we do a bit for, they do a bit for men, but they have gyms like at
Exactly.
St.
Yeah.
There isn't really, you're right, subject, there isn't anything for women where they feel that they're accepted also as, you know,
Important part of society.
Yeah.
I like the sewing and knitting idea because I'd love to go and be able to learn to knit.
Yeah,
You
why
know, that would
shouldn't?
be
Because
fantastic.
you know we're not teaching.
Yeah.
You know we should
or
be saying
even,
to
or even
these-
self-defence, I think is so important. for
Yeah,
women
but
to
I think
learn
self-defence is happening nowadays. But if you think about it, are we teaching our children, whether it's boys or girls, how to stitch clothes? We're not. Are we teaching them how to knit? Are we teaching them how to cook? Are we giving them, you know, basic skills that they
But
need?
do they necessarily need those skills?
Why
When you can
shouldn't
just buy
they?
clothes in a shop.
Why shouldn't they? What is wrong with having a trade? What is wrong with having a skill? If you can't find a job, there's plenty of women who don't have jobs, aren't able to, you know, to make ends meet, and they make suits at home.
Maybe if you'd be
You're
teaching
making
English
them-
lessons, maybe that would be more
But anyway,
valuable for...
coming back to
Can
the,
do.
the
The gossip,
topic at hand, you know, the aspect of socialising at the Gurdwara, you know, what can we do then to change the mindset of the committees?
I think it's the Sangha that needs to go and answer and
But,
say,
but
look,
not just
you know
not
what?
just to incorporate more, like we said, for women, but also to ensure that in the Darbar Sahib, children aren't running around, women aren't talking. There's actually an elderly lady group that's, you know, Smithy Gurdwara where I go, and she will go around and she tells
Yeah,
everybody off.
she
If
does.
you talk,
Like
she
a
will
warden.
come up to you.
Yeah.
We need like a
Whether
gossip
you're
warden.
her age, whether you're a
Yeah.
child. You know, people do get told. I mean, I've been told off for once, and that wasn't during a Hukumnama, but I think it was Study at the time. But
Right.
anyway, so she did come up and say, "Can you be quiet? Chop kar jo, tusi itthe gurdwara aaya." So you know, they should have sevadas, like you said,
Yeah.
you know, other Gurdwara where they come up and say, "Chop
But I suppose like in churches, you're automatically quiet.
yeah."
There's automatic silence. There's no sign that says silence, please. Everybody goes in, they respect the institution, and they sit there and they sit quietly. But in Gurdwaras,
why do
maybe
we not do
because
that
we've got
then?
food.
I think
We've
it's
got
been
food
allowed,
and service.
isn't it? It's just been allowed. If people talk, they talk.
Has
and
it just
it's
become
always
a culture? Do you think?
Well, no, because in the
You know?
Gurdwara we have food, we have kitchens. In churches, you don't have kitchens. So there is a social aspect around food. And our Gurdwaras serve food.
Yes, but that would be in the kitchen then. Why can you
noise,
not
voice,
restrict
noise
that
travels, I
to
guess.
the kitchen?
'Cause it
Why do
travels.
women or children or anyone feel that they should be sitting on phones in the darbar?
No, I think regular
that?
Maybe they don't
regular
understand.
goers of Gurdwara. So every Sunday when I go, generally I would not say it's a problem. It's when you have part and people that don't regularly go to the Gurdwara or they don't regularly do, like, you know.
It's the fact that they're meeting their relatives.
Yeah, they
there
haven't
after a
seen their
long
relative
time,
for
yeah.
ages. They've come from here. Those are the worst situations I've been to. I've been to family. Sukhmani said their part, and people have just spoke all the way through. and the Bhatti
surely
said it
they
4
should.
times.
The thing is, because it's a gathering,
Yes.
and maybe
Yeah.
the way that you ought to do
But
it.
then does that mean that it's because it's a social gathering for the families that they should completely forget the concept of why you're in the Darbar Sahib and
But
why
I
you've
think
gone to the
people do
Gurdwara?
because-
Have you only gone there to meet your relatives? Have you forgotten about the Khanpat Sahib that you've done a
Yeah,
kaya?
because it is a social gathering, because the concept of an Akhand Path has been taken away because you've been allowed to continue
That's it. It's
talk.
because it's been allowed.
And at the end of the day, like you said, you went and the time of the Hukamnama, and it's not just, you know, where I've seen it so many times. People don't understand the Hukamnama is your guru talking to you.
It's a bit like, would we
haven't even got that
if we see-
fundamental thing.
if we see anyone who hasn't got their head covered, we're all like,
Yeah.
yeah. So it should be the same kind of thing. Like they're
It's
talking,
our
they're talking. So
responsibility.
if that can be enforced, that you've got to cover your head and go take off your shoes and andar jaake matha teko, chop karke bejo, everything else is enforced. So
But-
this
but
can
then
be
we
What about
should-
the
it's
what about
our
the people that don't know what a
responsibility.
hukamnama is? What about how are you going to educate people that don't know what a
Because
hukamnama
I think
is.
before they start, I think before they start giving the hukamnama, they should say,
Yeah.
your guru is talking to you.
It's presumed that everyone
Please
knows.
buy it.
Yeah, but not everybody knows.
Thinks, yeah, like
It's
you say,
presumed.
not everybody knows that it's your guru talking
Then,
to you.
you know, we can go quite deep into that, because if you
Not always
if you
into
had the
that deep.
gurus back in the day who were visible, you wouldn't talk, would you, in front of the gurus? So are we
How
not
do you know
peop-
though?
Because
are we
How do you know
not
there wasn't
seeing-
debate? How do you know there
the
wasn't
Guru
debate
Granth Sahib is a
though?
guru.
hang on, one thing, okay, half of the time we don't even consider that the Guru Granth Sahib Ji is our
This
living
is what I'm
guru.
saying. Do we not consider the Guru Granth Sahib Ji
As the living
our
guru, because people have always said all along, teachings have been it's a Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Nobody said it's your living guru.
yeah.
Now people are saying it's your living guru. Things are changing, but let's leave that. It's our responsibility. So when I went to a Sukhmani Sabda part and people were talking, I actually went up to them and I said, please, can you be quiet? If you want to talk, go outside.
I've
know.
done it as well. Personally, I've
It's
gone up to
our
people and said it as well.
responsibility.
I have turned around and had to, I felt quite embarrassed to tell women who were, you know,
Older than you.
a lot older than I am, to say, "Tusi chop kar jo, please."
The fundamental
Yeah.
thing, you're going inside, you're sitting in the presence of your guru, you expect there to be silence. I don't think that it is about meaning
we're
for
way
anything.
too tolerant with some things that
Yeah.
are just not acceptable. It's like if you go into any other institution and it says keep silent, we'd actually probably obey. But when we go into our Gurdwara, for some reason we think it's okay because you know that no one can say anything to us. And you know what, women do have to take a lot of responsibility for this, because for the Sukhmani Sevda part, it's 45 minutes. Just, you know, be quiet. You've got a lot of opportunity afterwards to chat and do whatever. Or just step outside. I just think it's basic respect. And I think, I don't know why it is, it'd be really interesting to have that kind of conversation with women. Why do you think it's okay to talk in the Barsa when there's Bart?
Because I think they don't have anywhere else. Because if they sit outside and talk, you've got men that are going, or Gyani will say, "Bibiyo, ite chugliyan kat karo." They might just be talking about the weather or their health. They might be exchanging, "Oh, have you tried this nuska at home? It's really good for your knees," or whatever, because they've got similar ailments. But everybody automatically
then
assumes they're gossiping, so they think, okay, fine, you know what, this is our time, nobody can actually
Yes,
say
but
it to
then
us,
don't
and
they,
we'll do it.
no, forget about what obviously Sevadars are saying to them, but don't they themselves then think, well, actually, ਅਸੀਂ ਦਰਬਾਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੈਠੇ ਆ, ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਨ ਆਏ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਬੈਠ ਕੇ
Because
ਗੱਲਾਂ
it goes
ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ।
back to what has been taught to you. If your gurdwara historically has done that, why are you going to change it? Who are you as a young person coming up to me and saying, Bibi Mataji ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ, because they're going to say ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪਤਾ ਆ. Do you know what I mean? So if it's historically been done, it's going to take time. But I don't think that means that we shouldn't use. I think as a member of the Sangat, it's our responsibility to go up to, you know, the committee members and other Sangat people and say, this is what's been happening, it's not right, can we try this?
Yeah.
Yeah? If they don't listen,
But-
can we try it? Can we try it?
They're
Can
not
we try
going
it?
to listen because, I mean, some people have a mindset which they don't want to change.
Okay, so what, are you going to sit here and just talk about it and
how
not do
can you
anything
change-
else?
How can you change the people that don't
But
want
I'd
to
like to
change?
see the
Your
prayers in
responsibility.
English.
It's
I'd
your
really like to see that, because
responsibility.
some Gurdwara started doing that. They've started putting the prayers in English on a projector. I'd like to see that. I think that would help a lot of people that don't necessarily understand the
I think it
language.
just comes down to the whole enforcing of it all. If we all know it's wrong to go in there without our head being covered, we can't go in there with shoes. There's a certain
Yeah, it should be
process
common
to follow.
sense, shouldn't it?
Then I think again that's all been taught to us as children. We've got to cover our head. We've got to do, but we don't actually say to our kids, "And you've got to be quiet."
Yeah.
Because no one
But
talks in
then
the
why
libraries,
not
do they?
utilise those projectors to enforce it in Punjabi and English? Put it up and leave it
Big
up.
sign, shut up.
No one ever talks in a library.
Yeah.
No one ever talks in a library. Everybody's always quiet.
Because historically, when you've gone into a library, it's been quiet. If the library was chattery, you'd go and chat. I've been to libraries, they've got silent areas, they've got silent booths, and then there's other places
The
that
thing
you
is, what you don't want to do is you don't want to stop young people from going
Coming
to
to
the
the
Gurdwara.
Absolutely.
And so you have to get the balance right.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm saying it's got to be our responsibility as mothers and mothers out there that are listening to the show.
And fathers.
To make sure that, you know, they have that respect when they go in. You can socialise, go to the Langar Hall like we said, you know, and maybe ask your Gurdwara, can we have a room, just like the men have?
And maybe for children as well, because
Yeah.
the amount of children that sit on their phones and tablets in a Gurdwara and the parents bring
Allow
those
it.
to the Gurdwara, to the Darbar
Sometimes
Sahib.
just keep them quiet.
It's-
Which
but-
again, if you think about
But then
it, you know.
again,
What are you
should we,
teaching them?
should we be teaching them that, use that so that you don't talk,
Yeah.
but then you shouldn't be doing that either, should you, really? You should be...
It is hard. I mean, you know, we've all been there with young kids in the gurdwara. It's not easy. It does take time, and that comes with time. If you've got young kids, then obviously they're going to cry. You've got no control over that. So there's got to be a certain amount of tolerance there. I get that, but I think what we're all saying here is that it tends to be the buriya who are elderly, even our age, above, who tend to do a lot of the talking, and it's a case of how can we ask them respectfully to be quiet? Why is it not a given that they should be quiet in there? Again, I think the idea of the big going around telling everyone else, because that's quite embarrassing, isn't it? If you're talking to somebody and then you're told to be quiet, you automatically shut up.
But if you use the gurdwara in the way that we're supposed to be using the gurdwara, and if you actually get a place where you say, okay, fine, you know what, it's okay for the bibiyan to congregate there and chat over there, the bibiyan would do that, and the ones that want to listen to the Bart will stay inside listening to the Bart. I've often said to my mum's always been a culprit of, you know, when Bart's going on, you know, she'll sit, you know, next to in the Hal Butchanaya, because they're not reciting the Bart. They feel that it's okay to talk. So I've always said to her, no, you want to talk outside. You know, so we have to take responsibility of whenever we know, and we need to say to them. And I think a lot of the times, it's not their fault. It's because they can't do the Bart. They feel embarrassed that they can't do the Bart. They feel quite bored because they don't necessarily understand what's going on. And then they just think, oh, fine, you know what, because what are we going to do? We don't understand what's being said. You know, everybody else is taking part, you know, and, you know, we'll just carry on talking. But if there was almost like, before you start the Bart, you have your chat, then once you go inside, everybody needs to be quiet, you know, but that place has to be the place where everybody's quiet. There are other places that you can use, and I don't think we're utilising.
I've also, there's one of the things I was talking about, children going in with their phones. I've seen bibiyan and men on their phones inside the darbar said. I've seen people doing their matha teki and all of a sudden their phone's going off. And you think, come on, please use some common sense, switch your phone off before you go inside the darbar said. That's the least you can do. And then they go on further to answer that call. So where do we stand on that? You know, why aren't there sevadars there prompting these people?
Does that even need prompting? I mean, isn't that just common sense?
Well, it should be common sense, but it's not.
But then it goes back to what respect do you have when you go inside and you're standing in front of your guru? That's what it boils down to. What do you see the gurdwara as? You know, and lots of people unfortunately see it as a place to go and we're matha taking Sikhs. You know, go matha take on a Sunday, go outside, have your langar and go home.
You've done your bit.
That's it. You don't actually understand. That's why I say, what is the purpose of a gurdwara? Do we even understand what sangat means? Because
Not
we don't
everybody
even
does.
understand a sangat means.
Not everybody does.
You don't want to alienate anyone. You want to make sure people come to the gurdwara and find whatever it is that they're searching
At the
for.
level that's
at the level
they're
that's-
comfortable with.
But I think gurdwaras do have a responsibility to ensure that actually women, you know, are accepted and have a place there. You know? Yes, it shouldn't be in the darbar set, but it definitely should be somewhere within the vicinity.
Okay, Preet, I think we're going to have to leave it there for today because the show has come to an end, but it has been a great topic to discuss. And just to let the audience know that this is the end of our series. We hope you've enjoyed our shows, various topics we've discussed, and we've had various guest presenters on the show. And we do hope to come back again with a new series soon. We would like to hear from you, your feedback, your thoughts on how you feel the shows have been and whether you want any topics discussed on any forthcoming shows. So you can contact us on info@seekchannel.tv, and we do look forward to hearing your responses. But for today, ladies, we're going to leave it there. So,
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.